World News in 5.
Right now.
News and developments making headlines around the world in 5 minutes. World News in 5. Here on Radyo Pilipinas World Service.
This is World News in 5 here on Radyo Pilipinas World Service. A devastating air disaster struck the Indian city of Ahmedabad on Thursday as an Air India Dreamliner crashed into a medical college hostel, killing more than 240 people. The London-bound flight AI-171 had just taken off when it went down, bursting into flames upon impact with the building during lunchtime. Only one person survived the crash, a British national of Indian origin who was seated near an emergency exit. He described hearing a loud noise just seconds after takeoff before everything went dark. Authorities say the death toll includes both passengers and people on the ground. DNA samples are being collected to identify victims. Among the deceased is former Gujarat Chief Minister Vijay Rupani. The Boeing 7878 was carrying 240 people, including 11 children and 2 infants. Most passengers were Indian nationals, with others from the UK, Portugal, and Canada. CCTV footage shows the plane veering over a residential area before crashing in a fiery explosion. Officials confirmed the aircraft issued a mayday call but lost contact moments later. India's Civil Aviation Ministry has launched a high-level investigation with support from Boeing, GE Aerospace, and US FAA. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi called the tragedy heartbreaking, while condolences poured in from world leaders, including UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer, US President Donald Trump, and King Charles. This marks India's deadliest aviation incident in over a decade and the first major crash involving a Dreamliner aircraft. Ahmedabad Airport has since resumed limited operations. In our news, tensions along the Korean border may be cooling slightly, at least in volume. South Korea's Joint Chiefs of Staff says North Korea has stopped broadcasting loudspeaker messages across the border. No such broadcasts were heard Thursday, though officials say they're still closely monitoring the situation. The move follows South Korea's decision to suspend its own loudspeaker broadcasts on Wednesday. Those broadcasts blaring propaganda in K-pop had resumed last year amid rising tensions. President Lee Jae-myung, who took office earlier this month, ordered the halt in an effort to reduce friction and reopen dialogue with Pyongyang. Residents near the heavily guarded border have long complained about the broadcasts, citing serious noise disturbances. For now, both sides have gone quiet, but observers say it's too early to tell if this signals a lasting shift in tone. More news overseas. Australia's defense minister says he remains confident that the AUKUS submarine deal with the United States and Britain will move forward even as the US begins a formal review under the Trump administration. Speaking to ABC Radio, Richard Marles said the trilateral agreement worth $368 billion Australian dollars is in the strategic interest of all 3 nations. The AUKUS pact, signed in 2021, will eventually give Australia nuclear-powered submarines and expand cooperation in defense technologies. But concerns have emerged in Washington over U.S. submarine production capacity and the impact of selling vessels to Australia. A Pentagon review is now underway to determine whether the project aligns with President Trump's America First agenda. The review comes just ahead of Prime Minister Anthony Albanese's expected meeting with President Donald Trump at the G7 summit in Canada. Washington is also pressing Canberra to raise its defense spending to 3.5% of GDP, higher than the Albanese government's planned 2.3%. Australia made its first $500 million payment toward U.S. shipyard upgrades earlier this year, with another $2 billion due in 2025 to support Virginia-class submarine production. These subs are expected to begin transferring to Australia from 2032. Meanwhile, from 2027, U.S. commanded submarines will begin operating out of a base in Western Australia, offering, as one U.S. Navy official put it, a straight shot to the South China Sea. Eventually, Britain and Australia will co-develop a new AUKUS-class submarine expected to enter service around 2040. As the review unfolds, Australian officials and defense experts stress that AUKUS remains key to countering strategic threats in the Indo-Pacific. And that concludes today's edition of World News in 5. For Radyo Pilipinas World Service, I am Peñano. Good day.
World News in 5.
Right now.
News and developments making headlines around the world in 5 minutes. World News in 5. Here on Radyo Pilipinas World Service.